This is my family. So you guys know Carter because he's. If you don't, anyway. And the guy on the other side of me is my other brother. His name's Hunter, and I promise I'm the oldest, even though I'm the smallest. I used to be the biggest. That was a long time ago. And my dad, he's been here before. He's loud too. And then that's my mom. She's here tonight too. And the next pictures, that's my boyfriend. Some of you girls have met Paul. He's really great too. He is a commercial pilot and he lives in Orlando, so he works a lot. But I have awesome family and I have a great boyfriend, and they all love Jesus and they love me, and so very supportive. And my life's pretty good. I've got a great family and a great boyfriend, and I have awesome friends. I have you guys. So people ask me if I have kids sometimes. I'm like, yeah, I've got about 50, and they kind of look at me funny, and I'm like, oh, I should probably back up and explain that. So I have you guys. I have Journey as a whole. I have a pretty good job. School's going pretty well for me right now, actually. Christian theology is kicking my butt, but I'm working on it. And some days are so good that I get to take a nap. And if you guys know anything about me, you know that if I get to take a nap, then that's a good day, because apparently I'm still in preschool. But so my life's not perfect, but compared to a bunch of other people on the earth and probably even in the city, I've got it pretty good. But sometimes life can suck the life out of you. It happens whether you're 22 or you're 16 or you're 87. Sometimes it just happens. And so that's when I usually just kind of want to block out the world and curl up with a good movie. So one of my favorite movies is Madagascar. And we have a picture of it if you've never seen it. Maybe this will jog your memory. So the four main characters, they live in the Central Park Zoo, right? And then they escape one night and run all over New York City, through Town Square and Grand Central Station. And the zookeepers are like, we are done with you guys. You're crazy. We're done. We're done. So they decide to ship them back into the wild, is what they called it. And they're actually sending them to Kenya, to the wildlife preserve there. And fun fact, I've been there. It's gorgeous. In the midst of all this happening, they're put in these crates, and they have air holes and food and stuff. And so they're going to be put on this huge barge, and they're going to ship them across the ocean to Kenya, which is weird because Kenya's on the other side of Africa. Whatever, it's just a movie. So in the midst of that, there's these four penguins that are also staying at the zoo, and they decide a long time ago that they want to go to Antarctica. That is what they want to do. They don't belong in the zoo in New York. They belong in Antarctica. So they somehow escape from the zoo also and end up on the ship that's taking all these people to Africa. And they've got a plan. They're going to knock out the captain, hijack the ship, and they're going to go to Antarctica. They're penguins. They're little penguins. They're not people. They don't have thumbs. They can't drive a ship, So somehow they take over. They knock this captain out, and they take over the ship, and somehow they finagle their way to Antarctica. And so we're going to watch a little clip about what happened when they got there. And I hope that it works. So they got there, and it was not at all what they expected it was going to be. And I'm sure we've all had some kind of circumstance like that, right? Where you thought, this one thing was going to happen, and you were super hoping for it, and then the thing happens, and it's completely opposite of what you wanted. It can leave you, tired, frustrated, hopeless, or, disappointed like the penguins. And if you haven't already experienced a circumstance like that, you will. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's going to happen. And so it could be as little as hoping that the cafeteria is going to have the best chocolate chip cookies when you get to school tomorrow, and then you get there and there's no cookies, there's only broccoli or something, and you're let down. Or it could be something as even, some of you like broccoli, so maybe that would be good. I don't know. Or it could be even something as big as maybe your parents are splitting up. And that's devastating. You have one thing in mind, you're going to live happily ever after with your family, and they're going to have this great marriage, and the unexpected happens. It's something that you're not prepared for. And so something is going to happen that leaves you feeling tired or frustrated or alone, disappointed or hopeless. And those feelings happen when we're expecting one thing to happen, or even just hoping for it to happen. And then life hands us something completely different, completely the opposite. Maybe it's something super, super awful, something worse than what we were expecting. And so it kind of reminds me of the first time I got a chocolate bunny at my Easter basket. And I have one right here. P.S. Walgreens has their Easter candy 70% off right now. Shh. Don't get ahead of me, Isabel. So the first time I got an Easter bunny, Easter morning, I don't know if some of you guys do this on Saturdays before Easter because Easter mornings are a little crazy, but you get up and you're excited because, hey, the Easter bunny came and there's chocolate downstairs. And if I'm nice to Mom before we go downstairs, maybe I can have some of that chocolate for breakfast, right? Because it's Easter, it's a holiday. Jesus rose from the dead. Let's celebrate. Let's have chocolate with our waffles, So I remember thinking, that is a big bunny. It's going to take me a year and a half to eat this thing, right? So I go, and Mom's like, yeah, you guys can have some of your Easter chocolate before you get ready. And we're like, okay. So we dive into these things, and I was like, okay, well, it's a little lighter than I thought it was going to be. So I'm thinking maybe there's candy inside of it, right? Well, so we break these things open to eat them, and you go for the ears because that's what you eat first. This thing is empty. Okay? And I remember being 8 or 9, and I was still upset about it. Okay? Still. Because something looks like it's going to be full and sustain you for a long time, and that it looks solid, and that it's going to be able to satisfy your hunger and the void inside of you, and you get into it, and the dang thing's empty. What? That's false advertising. Although now, they're better about it because they put the word hollow on the box. But they didn't used to do that. So once you dive in to the bunny, you rip its ears off because that's what everybody eats first, right? Is the ears? That's what I eat first. And it's empty. And I was sad because that's not as much chocolate as a full, thick, solid Easter bunny would be. And that's not going to take me a year and a half to eat that. I could eat that in 5 seconds. So some of you may have experienced something like that. Maybe it's not, as definitive as, okay, well, this is an Easter bunny. I thought it was solid, and it's not. It could be something that maybe you experienced or something that you're filling your time with and your heart with, and you realize later on down the road that you're still empty inside. And the things that you're filling your heart with aren't sustaining you like you thought they were. And so my testimony, my story is pretty much that. I went to Winthrop for my freshman year of college, and I was really excited. I had a boyfriend at the time that I was dating, and y'all, he was a jerk and a half. He was awful. And he was really controlling, and he always wanted to know, where I was, who I was with, what I was wearing, when I was going to be back. So I didn't do anything. I didn't go out of my room a whole lot. My roommate left halfway through the first semester, so I was by myself a lot. So I just kind of stayed in my room, and we would fight on the phone, and that would leave me exhausted, and so then I would take a nap. And then I'd wake up, and then we'd be okay for a little while, and then we'd fight again. So I'd be exhausted, and then I'd take another nap. Y'all, I didn't do anything. I didn't go to class. I didn't study. I didn't do anything but sleep and fight with this guy because I thought that was normal relationship. When one of you lives far away and the other one lives in your hometown, maybe that's just what you do. You fight and you make up, and you fight and you make up, and maybe that's how everybody's relationship is. Actually, it's not. That's not right, so don't do that. So fast forward all the way through my freshman year, since I didn't go to class and I didn't do my homework, y'all, I had a GPA of 1.3. It is hard to have a GPA that low, okay? So I didn't go to class, I didn't do my homework, I didn't study, I didn't do anything. I didn't go to one of my final exams, and I'm not sure if my parents knew that until just now. So, I didn't do anything. And so when your GPA is that low and they already send you a letter warning about it from the first semester and you don't do anything to improve, you get put on what's called academic suspension. And that means that you take a semester off from school. And you're like, oh, that sounds fun. No, not fun. Because one, it goes on your school record, any transcripts you have. 2, you can't take any classes during that semester that will transfer for your degree. So you could spend a bunch of money going to Trident or something and take some classes. They're not going to count. You're not allowed to bring those credits back with you. So that happened. I was a little shook about it because I thought I'd always had my life figured out at that point, And so this letter comes in the mail, and I realized, okay, I need to make a change. So what has been the thing that is keeping me from doing what I need to do for school? And it was this boyfriend. So I broke up with him. And I felt a relief from not being with him anymore, but I still felt empty on the inside, kind of like the bunny, just nothing in there, And so school was going down the drain. I had no idea what I was going to do. I didn't have a plan at that point. I didn't have a job. So instead of being home for the summer, I was going to be home all the way through Christmas. And so when I was dating this guy, he didn't like my friends, so I pushed them away. My family didn't like him, so I pushed them away. And I'm really stubborn. I don't like to hear when I'm wrong. I'm still that way. But I don't like to hear when I'm wrong, so I'm just going to push you out of my life so I don't have to hear it. I'm right. I've got this. And so I was alone. and I felt completely empty on the inside. I didn't know what I was going to do. And, sometimes life is like that. Sometimes life is really hard, and maybe your parents split up, or you're praying for someone to be healed, like they're super sick or have cancer or something awful, and they're not, or your friends let you down, or you get cheated on, or, school is going down the drain because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Like, things happen. And things that we hope for, things that we've expected to happen, just don't turn out the way that we want. And when things like that happen, it's so, so easy to turn on God and to blame him for you feeling disappointed, hurt, and frustrated. And we want to know, hey, God, why didn't you fix this? Why didn't you come through for me? Why are you not answering my prayers? Yes, is that valid? Like, you want to get mad at God and things don't go your way? I do that still. And so Pastor Sean preached on frequently asked questions about prayer back in February. And if you're in my small group, we've revisited these sermon notes a lot. And so one of the questions was, how does God answer our prayers? That's a good question, right? Like, what do I need to be listening for? The three answers that you're going to get from God are yes, no, or wait. So if the answer is yes, then the thing that you're asking for, the thing that you're praying for, is a part of God's plan for you. It's for his purpose. It's going to bring him glory and do great things for his kingdom. It's going to be good for you, and it meets his timing. The answer is wait, which is one I think we probably have the most trouble with, is because it's kind of like when mom says, maybe you can get that candy bar at the store, but it's not like a yes or a no. So you just kind of stand there and wait until she gives you an answer. So if the answer, if God says wait, then the thing that you're asking for is a part of his plan for you. It's going to be good for you. It's for his purpose, but it doesn't mean his timing. So it's not time for that thing yet. If the answer is no, the thing that you're asking for doesn't meet any of those qualifications. None of them. It's not good for you. It's not part of God's plan for you. It's not going to be for his purpose, and it's not time for it. God makes a lot of promises to us in the Word and through prayer, but not a single one of them promises that life is going to be easy. God never said this life was going to be easy. And if your Bible says that, then we need to talk because it's wrong. He does promise us in Jeremiah 29:11 that he has a plan for us, and that it's going to be to prosper us and not to harm us, but to give us hope and a future. But he does not say that it's going to be easy. He never once says that. And Jesus says that too, like, don't expect things to be easy for you because you're following me. Like, it's probably going to be harder. And so just like Jesus' followers back in the day, we go through hard times too. We're not the only people who've ever experienced real loss or hopelessness or devastation or disappointment. 2,000 years ago, Jesus' followers went through what was, I'm sure, the most terrifying and devastating and difficult experience of their lives. And God never promised them it would be easy either. And so when Jesus came on the scene, when he first started his ministry, he was promising hope and future for these people and for justice to be brought to their city and to their world, and that he would bring all these great things. And they trusted that. They trusted in him, and they believed that through Jesus, God would change the world, starting with Israel. And then he was killed. Well, he was murdered, and so he died on the cross brutally. And the people who killed him were mocking him as he was dying. And so that brings us to our first passage of scripture tonight. It is in the book of Luke, chapter 23, verses 35 through 39. So if you don't have your Bibles, it'll be on the screen, okay? So let's start into verse 35. And the people stood by watching, but the rulers scoffed at him, saying, he saved others, let him save himself, if he is the Christ of God, his chosen one. The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine and saying, if you are the king of the Jews, save yourself. And there is an inscription over him on the cross, and it said, this is the king of the Jews. One of the criminals who was hanging next to him railed at him, saying, are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us. So not only is Jesus dying on the cross, and he's suffocating, and he's in pain, all these people that put him there are yelling at him and making fun of him and mocking him. And so the thing that gets me about that is in verse 35 it says, and the people stood by watching. Standing there watching Jesus die. The hope for their lives, they had put all their trust in, all their faith in, is leaving. Like, he's on his way out. And so I want you to think about the time when you felt the most disappointed, the most upset, the most hurt, the most scared. And y'all, to be honest, that's probably nothing to what Jesus' followers were feeling as they were standing there watching him die. Like, all the hope they had ever even dreamed about and ever wanted in their whole lives was dying on the cross. Jesus had promised all these things for them, and then he's dying. He's being taken away from them. It's probably not the outcome they had hoped for. And so that happened on Friday, which is, we call it Good Friday, when Jesus died, except I'm not really sure if that's good. It's good what happens a few days later. But so a few days later, so that happened Friday. A few days later, two of Jesus' followers were out walking around outside of Jerusalem, and somebody approached them and asked them what they were doing. And it was actually Jesus. He is Jesus, and he's all-powerful. So he had shielded their eyes so that he approached them like a stranger, so they didn't recognize him. I don't know what he looked like, but apparently he didn't look like Jesus. And so this is in the book of Luke also. This is in chapter 24, verses 17 through 21. So we're going to pick up and carry on their conversation. And he, Jesus, said to them, "What is this conversation that you are holding with each other as you walk?" And they stood still, looking sad. And then one of them, named Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who does not know the things that have happened there these days?" And he said to them, "What things?" And they said back, "Concerning Jesus of Nazareth, a man who was a prophet, mighty in deed and before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and rulers delivered him up to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the third day since these things happened." So verse 21, but we had hoped. That's what it sounds like when life has left you empty, when a circumstance that you've gone through or that you're currently going through sucks the life out of you. And they were sad because all of the things that they knew about Jesus had told them that he was legit. They watched him perform miracles. They listened to his sermons. They listened to him just talking to people. And their convictions, like their beliefs, told them that Jesus was legit. He wasn't a liar. He wasn't crazy. Like, he is Lord. Like they knew that in their hearts. But when he was killed, their circumstances changed. So like the things that are going on in their lives changed. And it made them question who Jesus was. And I've been guilty of the same thing. I have absolutely let what was going on in my life cloud my heart and cloud my judgment and make me question who Jesus is. And maybe you've done that too. That's okay, because you're not alone. Like, it happens. But when things go wrong like that, our circumstances can challenge our convictions. So things that we're going through, maybe something that happens to you or happens to a friend, and you're just kind of like, why is this happening? Hey, God, where are you? It's going to challenge what we know to be true, which is Jesus is who he says he is. And the early followers of Jesus know exactly what you and I know to be true too, and that's that this life can leave you empty, especially when we try to fill the void in our hearts with anything but Jesus. We were designed and created with this desire to be loved and this desire to want things. But when we start wanting the things that are down here on earth, these temporary things that you can't take with you, that's when you feel empty when something goes wrong. Because things that you're relying on aren't going to be the thing that sustains you. But when you have Jesus in your heart and Jesus is filling that void and you're doing things for him, when things go wrong and your circumstances change, you're not going to question who he is because you know who he is. And so when life is at its most difficult, there's usually nothing we can do about it. Like, some things are just out of our control, right? Like, maybe, we can't bring back the people that we've lost, people that have died that we miss. I wish we could bring back my grandparents in a heartbeat. We can't fix our parents' marriage. We can talk to them and kind of find out what's going on, but we can't fix their problem. And we can't take back the mistakes that we've made. If we go back in time and fix things, that'd be cool. That's not how life is, though. And so we're probably going to ask God to fix it. Probably like down on our knees before him every night when something's going wrong, saying, "Hey, where are you? What are you doing? Like, here I am struggling right now. Where are you at?" And he doesn't always answer those prayers in the way that we'd like. Maybe he does heal this person, but he doesn't heal them on earth. And so now they're in heaven. Well, they're healed. He answered your prayer. It's not what you wanted. But God knows what's best for you. And if you know the Easter story, you know that it has two parts. Like, the first part that we're talking about tonight is about the devastation and the loss and the hopelessness that Jesus' followers felt. And next week, we're going to talk about the other side of that story, which is about him coming alive and like being alive and still being alive. So we'll talk about that next week, so hold on to that, okay? But this week, we need to remember that Jesus' followers didn't have the Bible like we have it now. They didn't have the New Testament written down because they were living it out. So they couldn't, go to the end of the chapter and see, oh, don't worry, Jesus wins. It's okay, we're good. We'll just, power through this really bad time for the next couple of days, but we'll be good. They didn't have that. So we have the luxury of knowing that Jesus is going to win. But in that moment, when they're standing there watching him die on the cross, they felt defeated and hopeless, and I'm sure they were terrified. Like, oh, well, they killed Jesus, so I follow Jesus. Am I next? And we know for a lot of the disciples, they were killed for doing what they were supposed to be doing, for being on their mission. And so like Jesus' followers, we don't understand why God allows bad things to happen to us sometimes. But we don't have to understand. And I think the sooner we realize that we don't have to understand and that we let that go, we just have to trust that he has the greater plan for us. And he promises that to us so many times that he knows what's good for us. And so when life leaves us empty and feeling like we don't know what the heck is going on, and that's okay, but it's going to happen, we may not be able to fix it. But instead of getting mad at God and asking him, like, why me? Why are you doing this to me? Where are you at? Why don't you love me? Don't make it about you, okay? We can ask better questions. I've got 3 questions that we all together can ask ourselves when something happens that leaves us feeling empty. And so the first one is, what are my circumstances? Okay, so what's going on in my life right now? What has changed? Is there anything I can do to fix it? The answer to that is probably not. And so then it's like, okay, well, why am I feeling empty because this happened? All right? So the second question is, what are my convictions? So who do I believe that Jesus is? What are my beliefs? Can I trust him? Why did I start trusting him in the first place? Should I start trusting him? Since this really bad thing is happening, and some of my friends are saying that this Jesus guy is pretty good and he can sustain me through these awful times, should I step out in faith and decide to start trusting Jesus? So the third question is, what will I do when my circumstances challenge my convictions? So if Jesus is who he says he is, can I still trust him despite whatever kind of craziness is going on in my life? Yes, you can. I'm going to go ahead and give you the answer to that one. You can totally trust Jesus. And I know it's hard, and I know that sometimes it's scary, and that's okay. But you need to think in mind, like, what am I going to do the next time that life leaves me feeling empty? The next time that my circumstances change? Then what? If I still feel empty like I do right now, I don't want to do that again. So what can I do to fix that? What am I going to do differently? And we all know the answer to that. It's filling your heart with the things that are going to sustain you and not the things that are just full of what earth is full about. We're called to be in the world but not of it, which means that we're supposed to be living here and amongst other people who don't know Jesus, but we're not supposed to be like them. We have to be telling them about Jesus, right? And so maybe you're sitting there and you're kind of waiting for the aha moment, to answer all the questions that you've ever had about why God lets bad things happen, or you're thinking you're going to get a step-by-step how-to-fix-it program for when things go bad. Sorry to disappoint, but that's not what the point of tonight is. The point of tonight is for us to examine our lives and to examine our hearts and to answer these questions and ask ourselves these questions and figure out the answers and think about what in your life is making you feel empty and hollow. So we may not like it, but at some point, y'all, life is going to happen and it's going to suck the life out of you. It's going to happen. I'm telling you. I'm not just saying, oh, maybe, it'll probably happen. No, something's going to happen that you're not prepared for. And it might suck, okay? It's going to be real honest. It might not be great, and it might be absolutely horrible. Something that's going to just make you feel so, so empty. And we can't always make it better. We can't always fix it on our own. We can't always just ask God, hey, can you fix this problem? Instantly. He's not a genie. He's God. He can do whatever he wants. And if it's not good for you, it doesn't mean it's timing, then you're not going to get it. We can ask ourselves these questions and understand our circumstances better and understand our convictions better. In 2 Timothy 3, Paul is warning Timothy about difficulties that are going to happen. He's telling them there will be difficulties in the last days. It's not a maybe. He's like, they are going to happen. And we can take that warning to heart too and realize that bad things will happen. That's just it. But we can't let our circumstances distract us from the mission that God has placed before us. That is number one. Do not let outside things make you forget about who Jesus is. And when you know him, and he's the thing that's filling your heart instead of all this other worldly junk we got going on down here, then you will be sustained through these hard times and these circumstances that leave you feeling like you are done. So I'm going to leave you guys with a challenge, okay? If you've got your Bibles out or you have a notepad or a pen or whatever, I want you to write this verse down. It is Psalms 139, 23 through 24. So flip to it, get there. It'll be on the screen. I want you to write it down first, or let it be, imprinted in your brain, all right? The challenge that I'm giving you is to ask God to point out to you what is making you feel empty inside. What are you filling your heart with to rely on when things get hard later? So we're going to go to that passage, and I will read it. It's going to be on the screen if you guys don't have it, okay? So this is Psalm 139, 23 and 24. And y'all, I used to hate this verse, and I'll tell you why. You'll probably know why. Search me, God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. See if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. So what he's saying is, God, show me what I'm doing wrong. Point it out to me. I don't like to be told that I'm wrong. I don't know anybody who likes being told that they're wrong. And so for me to ask God to be like, hey, if there's something wrong in my heart, I want you to point it out to me. I want you to show me what I can do to overcome this. And I'm going to give you the glory for it. But I need you to show me. So the challenge tonight, you guys, ask yourselves, ask God to point it out to you. What is making you feel empty? And if you're feeling empty and you're just stuck and you don't know what to do about that, we've got small group leaders here. That's what we're here for. Pray this verse every day. Just be like, make it a part of your routine. Make it a part of your daily time with God and be like, hey, let me know today if there's anything going on in here that doesn't need to be. And if there's stuff in here that is just of the world and isn't going to sustain me, let me know. And then give me the strength and the courage and the ability to overcome that. And I'm going to give you all the glory. Let's pray. God, thank you for tonight. Thank you for showing up and for everything that you do for us. I pray that you just remind us every single day that we can trust you despite what's going on in our lives, and that we can love on you and you will love on us right back. And I pray that you remind us daily that we need you to be the thing that's filling up our hearts and filling up those voids inside of us. So I pray right now, God, if there is anybody in here that's feeling empty and is realizing that they need you, they have the courage to mention that to somebody tonight, and that they find you and be sustained for the rest of their lives. Amen.